I'm about to get vulnerable with you. I'm going to share some stories of my struggles coming out as gay. As I do, I invite you to think of the truths you keep to yourself. Maybe you're grieving and nobody knows, or you're nervous to make that big life change. Perhaps you live in a ski town and you don't even like to ski. Exactly. These things can make us feel different, lonely. And we all have parts of ourselves that we choose not to share, and that's okay. But here's the thing. We can choose to share what makes us different. We can allow ourselves to be vulnerable. Doing so ties our journey, our life, with that of another, and helps them know they're not alone. By speaking our truth, we invite connection and create togetherness instead of separation. For most of my life, I just assumed I was straight, which means I dated guys, and you may by now have guessed that that just never worked. And I told myself to try harder. I approached it like it was a problem, that with enough effort and work that I could figure it out. Yeah, that wasn't the case. And it wasn't the guys either. They were great. We adventured, skied, mountain biked, all the things I was looking for. It was aggravating repeating that same pattern. And I'm sure if you asked the guys, they were frustrated too. It seems so easy for other people to fall in love. It never was for me, and I was confused. When I was 26, I started teaching kindergarten. I absolutely loved it. Their happy faces, their enthusiasm and eagerness for learning. I kept my job as a part-time ski instructor as well. And one night that year, I went to see some music. And I wasn't totally sure what to expect of an all-girls AC/DC cover band. Turns out, it was a little wild. That night I met someone. And I had met lesbians before. I had lesbian friends, but something was different. I was intrigued. She seemed similar to me, and I was drawn to her confidence, to her energy. In that moment, I found my people. The confusion melted away. Before long, I started dating women, and life made so much more sense. A year passed. I still loved teaching kindergarten. I knew I was good at it. And suddenly I was nervous. What if someone found out I had a girlfriend? I was afraid. I'd be rejected, embarrassed, and what I'd worked hard at becoming, would that be taken away? And I could have kept it quiet, but the tension of not being open, it gnawed at me. Hiding a part of myself, if you've ever done it, you know it's exhausting. It seemed like I had two competing goals: to be great at my job and to be honest about my identity. Ultimately, I decided I wasn't ready to be out in the school setting. So I quit my job as a kindergarten teacher and decided to focus on skiing. You can see I wasn't yet ready fully ready to speak my truth. So I made a shift. I started leading active travel trips in the non-ski seasons, and the guests on these trips were spending a lot of money vacationing with their families. My job was to make sure that everything was exceptional. It really boiled down to building relationships. So what did I do? I undermined the basis of any true rapport and kept a big part of myself secret. It's hard to say this now, this many years later, but I honestly felt that they would enjoy their family vacations more if they thought I was straight. I had undergone this major change in my understanding of myself, and I had had the courage to come out to my friends, but fear of rejection, it held me back from speaking my truth to the greater world. On one summer trip, I was guiding a group, including an incredible couple in their 80s, Jacqueline and William. We were visiting Bryce, Zion, and Grand Canyon National Parks. And as I worked to create a close connection with them, I was really careful to be vague about my love life. I didn't think sharing stories of me and my girlfriend with a couple born in the 1920s, I didn't think that was going to improve their travel experience. And it's not that I lied to them, but I was really good at avoiding and redirecting. But Jacqueline, man, she was persistent. And eventually, I just had to tell of my girlfriend Patty and how I thought she was the one. It was one of those moments when time slows down and you can picture all the bad things that are about to unfold. Her expression changed, and I got even more worried. And then she lit up. She turned to her husband and asked, "Can I tell her?" He nodded, and she went on to tell of her stepdaughter, who had just broken up with her long-term girlfriend. And not that I rejoiced in any breakup, but that response, it was unexpected and reassuring. I had thought that if she knew I was gay, it would take away from her vacation. Instead, it was the thing that deepened our friendship and allowed us to have a meaningful conversation. Patty proposed, and in the summer of 2010, we were married on top of a mountain. And it seemed like we had overcome a mountain of struggles to get to that point. And we were determined to honor our commitment by saying things like, "my wife," and by publicly showing affection. So when we were at another wedding, just a couple weeks later, and the DJ said, "This is a dance for all the married couples out there," we started dancing. I like to dance. I'm a pretty good dancer. And this guy came up to us. "Didn't you hear him?" he said. "This is a dance for married couples." And the emotions we felt in that moment, they're hard to describe. Anger, frustration, embarrassment. We took a deep breath. Yes, we are married. And we kept dancing. Later that night, that guy, he came back. This time, he said, "I'm sorry. I'm just an ignorant old man, and tonight I learned something." The truth is, we learned something too. Had Patty punched him in the face? Like we had both felt in that moment? He probably wouldn't have come back. It occurred to us that we were figuring out how to respond, and also that other people need space and time to learn. We realized that we had choices. We could avoid a situation altogether. We could allow ourselves to be aggressive or defensive when misunderstood. Or we could give space for understanding, and we could forgive. The following winter, I was in the ski school office, and Jerry came in. She was the mother of one of my longest-term students. She noticed my wedding ring and quickly asked, "What's your husband's name?" And it's such a simple question. But in me, it brought up those fight or flight reflexes. I could feel that quickening of my heartbeat and the warming of my face. I had a catch in my throat. But I don't think there was too much time before my response, "My wife's name is Patty." Jerry didn't hesitate either before inviting both of us to dinner with her extended family. It was another situation where I was unsure of the outcome, but I stuck to my guns. I told my truth, and it worked. I was getting better at this being open thing. Fast forward a few years, my phone rang. It was Jerry. She sounded like she was crying. Her child, Bennett, my ski student since age 2, had just come out to her. Jerry wanted to support Bennett, and at the same time, she was concerned for them and their future. She was grateful to have a resource both she and Bennett trusted. They were in town a few weeks later and visited Patty and me at our home. Our daughter was just a few months old. Patty and I were inspired to see somebody come out in high school, to see their generation pushing beyond the barriers we had. And while it was still a really challenging experience for Bennett, we were encouraged to see that the world was improving, that more people were able to live more openly. I believe my daughter can accomplish anything. Today, she wants to be a veterinarian, an animal helper, a rock star, pop star, DJ, and an artist. How do I help her achieve her dreams? I have to do it through my actions. I have to show her how to strive, to be vulnerable, to be part of something bigger than herself. She's the reason I'm here tonight. I want to be a role model for her and hold myself to those same high aspirations. Sharing my life in this setting, it's uncomfortable. Terrifying, even. About going to the moon, JFK said, "We don't do it because it is easy. We do it because it is hard." While standing on stage tonight or sharing one's truth out in the world may not exactly be walking on the moon, it can feel like it. When we fearfully conceal our differences, we isolate ourselves, making it difficult to find that next step forward. The inner turmoil, it can be tremendous. It can even kill us. But by stepping past that barrier of the American culture that insists we be strong and independent, that insists that we should be able to figure out things all by ourselves, by pushing past that barrier and stepping into my vulnerable space and saying, my wife, to a stranger, that builds a bridge from me to them. By telling my truth, I help others tell theirs. I'm gay. That's part of my story. Most likely your story is different and similar. Maybe your interests are completely different than anyone else in your family. Maybe you or someone you love is struggling with mental illness. We all have things we want to keep to ourselves. And my question is, what's holding you back from letting someone in and speaking your truth? Thank you.